What's up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in today. I've got Mr. Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and so many more awesome things here with me today. How you doing today, Joel?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Doing great. I appreciate you taking time out to do this with me today.
Likewise, brother.
So let's go ahead and jump into this. You've got a new album out on Frontiers with Joel Hoekstra's 13. Talk to us a little bit about this album. One thing I wanted to know was this something that you decided to do with the downtime with the quarantine?
No, it was in the works before that. I think the silver lining of the whole quarantine thing, though, is it did free up everybody's schedules to be able to expedite it a bit and get it done. So that was good. But yeah, I mean, it's the second album out under that project name. Dying to Live was the debut, so I have the same lineup back. It's Russell Allen on vocals, Vinnie Appleseed on drums, Tony Franklin on bass, Derek Sherinian on keyboards, and Jeff Scott Soto, my friend, sang backing vocals on it, amazingly enough, even though he's overqualified for the gig. So as far as material, it's straight ahead melodic hard rock that I like to say is Dio-ish at its heaviest and Foreigner-ish at its lightest.
Absolutely. I can hear the Dio influence on it pretty heavy, but it's still in its own path. But that's awesome with guys like you who don't shy away from their influences, and it's awesome hearing stuff like that translate to the record.
Yeah, I think with this album, I mean, a big part of it was trying to focus the sound of it and really take the center of it, where Dying to Live was kind of became what it became as it went. It's kind of like writing as it went. So some of the songs lived on the heavier side. I started out really heavy and ended up pretty commercial and I guess more AOR-ish, I guess people say. But there was even a couple songs that could have lived in the alternative world on there. So this one I just tried to focus it a bit more. That's all. So outside of that, the formula is relatively the same. I mean, it's just going for something that people can rely on and develop a sound with it. So there you go. I think that's the best description I've been able to come up with. If you got a better one, I'll roll with it. But
no, that's perfect. That was the perfect answer.
Okay, cool.
So you mentioned a second ago that Vinnie Appleseed is playing drums on this. I'm a huge fan of his, so I was wondering if you could tell the story of how you and Vinnie met.
Yeah, well, he actually played on Dying to Live before we ever met. It was Tony Franklin and I had just finished up doing a project called VHF, which is kind of psychedelic instrumental rock. I think maybe 3 or 4 people bought it somewhere out there. But anyway, we finished that up, and I said, hey, man, I was thinking of doing something that sounds like a band, but I'd really like to be the guy that does all the writing and everything and just kind of, I guess, be the boss of it. And he was in, and I said, who would you want to use on drums? And he recommended Vinnie. And so I'd never met Vinnie, but I thought that was perfect for what I was going for, which is kind of a return to my roots, what got me started in music. And the Dio thing, I mean, that was a big, big part of my childhood, man. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I played Holy Diver and Last in Line in particular, those two. And of course, Vinnie playing with Black Sabbath. So anyway, that's how we came together.
That's great. What's it been like working with him on these 2 records?
Great. I mean, my whole philosophy with producing these albums is to stay out of everybody's hair, man. I think you get the best work out of these people by just not suggesting what they play all the time. I'm not a drummer, man. Let Vinnie Appleseed do his thing, So I do my thing. We stay out of each other's way in terms of what everybody wants to play. So I write everything. I write the riffs and I write the vocals and the vocal melodies. I sing a guide vocal for Russell, but same deal there. Russell's free to do whatever the heck he wants with that guide vocal. It's not like, hey, dude, this is Mozart. You need to go note for note. No, it's just rock and roll, man, So, everybody's got their own interpretations going on in this, and I think because of that, it feels like a bit of a creative outlet for them as well.
That's fantastic. Now, did any of these songs start to come together on the last record? Is there any material from that time period, or is this all newer stuff that was aimed towards this record?
There's like a couple riffs that were around for a while. Like the song Fantasy, I actually wrote with Nathan. I wrote the riffs back with Nathan James for the first Inglorious album. So that that one had been around for a while, and I always thought, you know, he ended up using a different one for a song on the first record called "You're Mine," and I was like, that one was cool. He could have used that. I think that's something. So anyway, when it came time to write for this, I definitely pulled that one in because I thought, look, that fits the mold of what I'm doing here. Now, some of the stuff I have sitting around doesn't fit the mold, so you got to be selective and figure out what really is going to like work with this under this particular project name. And outside of that, man, just I write the guitar riffs pretty much in one block, and usually when I'm doing that, I'm singing a melody, and the chorus will have words. So typically, I start there. I'll write a chorus, have something that I really dig, and then from there, verse. But the verse, I'm not too worried about the specific lyrics yet. I'll just sing a melody. And then once Vinnie and Tony have played on the stuff, that's when I sit down and go, okay, got to get all the lyrics written and make sure that I'm happy in that department as well. So kind of in general, two different writing sessions.
I was going to say, so you are writing the lyrics that Russell's singing on this record.
Yeah, that's what's different about this, and that's why it's not necessarily a band. That just wouldn't be fair to those guys. And personally, I really enjoy the opportunity to be the guy who can actually write it all for a change. And not, typically in a band, you're contributing some guitar riffs, if not sometimes all the guitar riffs, but a lot of times just some of them even. So for me, it's just cool to be like, hey, man, this is my stuff.
Of course. So one thing I wanted to ask you about this record as well is your guitar setup for it. Listening to it, your guitar sounds great throughout the entire record, especially on songs like Reach the Sky. So I want to know what you were using to record this record for the most part with.
Well, man, I mean, this is really my first one where I had to do a DI because I live in New York City. I live in an apartment, so there was no like half stack with the mic on it and all that stuff. I mean, I'm used to doing it that way, old school. And this one, I printed a modeler, but I also printed a DI, which is just for those that don't know, that's just your guitar like direct in. So if you listen to it, you'd go, what? Like, I mean, it sounds like basically a guitar with no amp, no pedals, nothing. And then had the mix engineer use plugins. So he used those Neural DSP plugins that a lot of guitarists are using right now. And, I mean, I dig the results. I can't really say like, oh man, what a letdown. I mean, it sounds cool. I erred on the side of making the guitars really fat. I did like four rhythm tracks for each song. It just doubled as tightly as possible.
Have you used Kempers at all? Have you ever tried out those things before?
I have. I like them. I don't own one for whatever reason. I have a couple fractals that I've used on gigs. I used Fractal with Rock of Ages, and we use them with TSO, and I used it with Cher as well. So I'm a little more familiar with that unit. I like the sounds of the Kemper, like a lot of the amps and the response off it. It sounds like is really good, but I'm just for whatever reason just haven't gotten one yet. I'm really happy with this little unit I have at home that is what I printed and I use on all these quarantine jams and stuff like that. And that's just a relatively inexpensive unit. It's a Studio Devil made by Amplifier, which I got Atomic Amplifier, and I got that mainly because it fit in the pocket of my gig bag on the road. I mean, I have a little interface in that. And that way I was able to go around on the road. But I do like the Friedman patch on there. And that's typically what I use. And I just have some EQ that I'll do in Pro Tools. And I'm just really like a delay only guy. I'm not really into using chorus. And I typically don't use reverb on my guitars. And so just a little delay and some, obviously you usually in a mix you dump a lot of the low end off your guitars. And yeah, there you go.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. So the record came out on Frontiers. I wanted to ask you a little bit about what your relationship's been like working with them and the release through the album with them and the feedback and everything. What's it really been like working with Frontiers on this record?
Oh, good, man. I mean, I've been with them a long time, I feel like we're old friends. I started working with them back on somewhere in California with Night Ranger now. So that was 2011. So we've been working together basically 10 years. I mean, we went over and played Frontiers Festival and got to hang and meet those guys. And so we did obviously the 2 studio and 1 live album together with Night Ranger, and with Whitesnake we've done the same. So two studio albums and a live album, and now this is my second with them under this project name. So yeah, I feel like we got a good relationship, and we're going to be working on that project with Nathan James and Michael Sweet together as well.
Okay, very cool. Nice. So I want to kind of get off of this for a second and talk about your project Echo Bats that popped up last year. For anybody that doesn't know, it's yourself, Tony Harnell, and Matt Starr. And you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember who the bassist was in the video.
Yeah, James Lomenzo, yeah, and then
Yeah,
Eric Levy from Night Ranger as well
yeah,
on keys.
okay.
So
Yeah, the names were slipping me, but I wanted to ask you how about this project came and the idea to do this.
that was just something that Tony Harnell and Matt Starr hit me up about, and James and I gave Tony some ideas, song ideas, and that Save Me From Loving You just happened to be the first one that Tony completed, and felt like it was a good time during the early dark days of this whole thing, the COVID experience, to put that out. So we just went for like a fun video, and it's ironic because the lyrics are fairly dark in it, but it's this kind of uplifting, happy sounding song. So, but still, it felt like a feel good, uplifting song when everybody was bumming out and learning how to hang inside nonstop.
Yeah, the video was great. You had your kids in the video, Matt's kids were in the video as well. So it was really uplifting spirit type video, even though the juxtaposition of the lyrics, kind of painted a darker image. But what was it? I'm in a band with Matt Starr called Minefield. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about what it was like working with Matt on the Echo Bat stuff.
Oh, I mean, cool. We didn't have all that much interaction. I mean, I had put in some ideas, and James had put in some ideas, and I think Matt and James recorded tracks to pretty much, I think, all of it, and we got it to Tony, and that's just kind of where it's at. So, like I said, that was the first one that Tony had done. But as far as Matt goes, we had limited interaction. But I love Matt. I mean, we've known each other for a while now, so. We've seen each other in the scene, I guess, as they say, for many years.
Well, that's great. So you mentioned that there are other tracks that you guys have worked on. Can you give us maybe a timeline of when we can see some more music from you guys?
No, I don't know that there's any specific plans for it at the moment, and maybe it'll just be something like "Save Me From Loving You," where we drop in with like a song here or there. But as far as having it be a full-time thing, I mean, I don't necessarily see it right now, but you never know.
That's awesome. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about Whitesnake before we got out of here today. So I had Reb on the other day and was talking to him. I know that the new vinyl issues just came out with the Red, White, and Blues. And Reb said that there hasn't been any talk about doing more original music with this lineup of Whitesnake, but do you anticipate that you guys will possibly get back into the studio sometime and work on some stuff?
I have no idea, man. I take it just as, when it comes from David, just like you guys do. So, here's fingers are crossed that we'll be able to do some more touring or do some more recording. Whatever David wants, we'll be there to support him.
That's great. Well, Joel, I appreciate you so much coming on here and giving me a little bit of your time to talk about the new record that's out on Frontiers. It's been a pleasure talking to you. The new record sounds great, and I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Me and you will be able to say goodbye off air, but thank you again so much for coming on here and hanging out with me for a little while.
My pleasure, dude. Thank you so much for everything.
All right. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I will see you guys later tonight with Chip's Enough from Enough's Enough. Thank you guys.
Oh, nice. Please give Chip my best.
Absolutely.